So the purpose of this video is to show you how to calculate measures of central tendency, that being mean, median, and mode, and how to uh, do measures of variance, standard deviation, and variance using Microsoft Excel. Okay, so what we have here is we have a database where I have an ID number. Okay, we won't use this column for any analyses. Doesn't make sense to have a standard deviation or mean of this. Everybody has a unique number and it just represents them individually. We have planet of origin, a nominal variable with numbers 1, 2, and 3 to respectively represent Venus, Earth, and Mars, or whatever planet you can envision. Gender with 1 and 2, male, female, again a nominal variable, and grade point average. Okay, this is a scale variable, typically 0 to 4.0, but here we have somewhere around 2.0 to very high 3.9s. Okay, we have a 399. All right, so let's say I wanted to know the average of everybody. We call this the grand mean. Okay, so what if I wanted to calculate the average GPA of all, called the grand mean? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an empty column. Okay, I'm going to type equals, and then I'm going to type in the word average in open parenthesis. Okay, now since I have this average in an open parenthesis, it wants to know all the numbers that I should average. So in this case, I'm just going to do them all, and I'm going to end my parenthesis and hit enter. Okay, I can do this same thing to calculate the grand median. I go equals median, parenthesis, same group, enter, and the grand mode. Now it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Equals mode, parenthesis, and then select, and then end parenthesis. Not applicable because none of these numbers precisely match. Okay. However, notice how close the mean and the median are. So we could probably assume that this is on a somewhat normal distribution and the mode is somewhere around 2.9. Okay? Now let's say I wanted to calculate variance and standard deviation. So I want the grand variance. I'm going to type in equal VAR. It gives you a lot of different options. Notice VAR down there. That's the one you want. I'm going to highlight everything. Shift tab. Enter. Okay? And then grand standard deviation equals STDEV, that's it. And again, it's this one right here. Okay? And then I'm just going to highlight the same column and hit enter. Now, just for my own database, I'm going to highlight all of these the same color just so that I know that I want highlight, not just so that I know that I'm dealing with the grand here. Okay, all of these represent the entire group. Okay, interesting to note the variance and the standard deviation. Remember, the variance is the standard deviation squared, or is that is to say the standard deviation is the variance square rooted. Okay, because they're both the sum of the deviation squared divided by the number of sample minus 1 if you're doing a sample. Okay, the only difference is you square root this to get standard deviation. This is bigger than that because we're dealing with decimals. 0.66 squared is approximately 0.43, and the inverse is true. Now let's say that I wanted to calculate these things for each group. For the purpose of time, I'm just going to do means. Okay, so I'm interested in calculating Venus mean, Earth mean, and Mars mean. Okay, now here I'm just going to go ahead and highlight it a different color. Okay, now the way I can do that is I can sort my data. Here I have planet of origin. Each number represents a different planet. Venus being 1, Earth 2, Mars 3. So I could go through here and try to click on every one to calculate my mean, or I could highlight the entire column, go to the upper right side where it says sort and filter, click on sort smallest to largest. It's going to ask you if you also want everything attached to sort with it, and of course you do, because you don't want these values to get jumbled. And here I have Venus all right here, Earth all right here, and Mars all right here. So just real quickly, I'm going to go ahead and do those. So I make sure that I start and end at the ones, that I'm not including anybody else or excluding anybody. Okay. Then I go ahead and start and end at the twos. And then start and end at the threes. Now incidentally, if these huge decimals bother you, you can highlight that column, click on Format Cells, click on Number, and tell it how many decimals you want it. Okay? And there, now we have 2 decimals. So again, if I can look here and see who has the highest, lowest, etc. Okay, these are very close. All right, but I could also do the same thing by doing my standard deviation formula and just selecting the correct respective section of this column. Okay, and I could get standard deviations for each of those using this formula that I have up here. Now, finally, let's say I want to create a visual for this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Insert, Column. Okay, before I do that, I'm going to highlight Venus, Earth, Mars, and then all of their scores. Now I'm going to go to Column, and I'm just going to choose a basic column. Okay, and here I have a graph that I could put into my paper under the results section. Okay, I might not like the way this particular graph works, so I can use this bar up here to choose all sorts of formats. For example, that, and then I can choose layouts, right? And I can title it. Okay, and I can have it so you can play with that. All right. So these figures produce a lot more. These figures are a lot easier, perhaps, to read and nicer to look at than, say, some of the figures in SAS or R or even SPSS. So you can do these basic things on Excel, and it can turn out pretty nice. Now, if I wanted, I could include standard deviations in here too and things. But I just encourage you to play with this feature and learn it as you go. And that's it. Thank you.